In this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up for the texture paint obelisk object. So you're going to start off by going to Schoology and locating your class and finding the obelisk object here. You'll then go ahead and download it. There you go. So Schoology is going to make us go to it. And I would download it to your desktop, so I'll go ahead and do that. Then I'm going to go ahead and open it up in Blender. So here it is right here. And it's a really simple object. Takes about 3 minutes to model from a cube. I just extruded and scaled, and that's pretty much it, just to give a couple different shapes. So for the setup, I split my window into two. I'm going to change one of my windows into the UV image editor. I'm now going to tab into edit mode. When looking at the object, I realized that the very bottom face is not going to be seen by anyone, so you can go ahead and select that face and just press X and delete it. That's fine. Then go ahead and select the entire object and press U to unwrap and choose Smart UV Project. Remember, you want to add in an island margin, so I'm going to make that 0.06 for the island margin. Press OK, and here is my UV unwrapping on the right. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in on the UV unwrapping. What I like to do is I like to rearrange the UV unwrapping so that it makes a little bit more logical sense for me as a painter, and then I can start doing the painting process. So I'm going to rearrange this UV layout. Then I'll get into the custom brushes and setup for texture painting, and then that'll be probably enough for this video. Okay, so I'm going to come over here to my UV image editor over here, and I need to switch to, I need to be able to select these islands here. So I'm going to press Control Tab, and I'm going to get into face mode. The other thing I could do is I could press Control Tab and I could press Island Mode, and that's a little bit easier because I just have to do a single click to be able to select each island. So if you think face mode is easy, Island Mode is even easier. Notice that in the 3D window I have all faces selected. If I deselect the faces over here, my UV layout disappears. So I'm going to leave that selected. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and shift right click, and I'm going to select these 4 islands here, and they're upside down, so I need to rotate them. So I'm going to press R and then type in 180 on the keyboard and left click to accept. Okay, looking around now, the disadvantage of doing it this way is that if I select this face right here, I know by looking at the shape that it's probably one of these 4 right down here, but I don't really know which one. And at times that's going to be important because maybe you want to put something specific on this face, and you have no idea until you start painting which one this really is of the 4. So there is a solution for that. And what that means is if you come over here and you deselect all, and then you select it down here, you'll see that it will actually go ahead and select it, and there it is right there. But now I can't see anything else in my UV layout, and I don't like seeing that, or I don't like not being able to see that. So my preference is to just come down here in the bottom of your UV image editor, and there's a little button down at the bottom here that looks like a cube with 2 vertices, and this is called the sync button. And when you activate that, now you can see when I select a face over here, it selects it over here in the UV, and you don't have to have anything selected. So I think this is the best of both worlds. The only downside of using this method is that you don't get the island function. You have to select faces, so not a big deal. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select these. These are the base, sort of the base boards here, the kick boards here, and I'm going to take them and I'm going to type in R, 90 to rotate them, and then G to grab them. So something like that. I'll go ahead then and I'll select all of these faces, just grab them and move them out of the way. I'll box select these 4, which are these 4 up here. Again, grab and select. I'll select these 3 over here, which are really these last 3 down here. I'll press R and 90, rotate them 90 degrees, grab them, and just select them and rearrange them. Now there's a couple strategies that we can do here. Let's see, before I get into the strategies, let me just finish my rotations here. So I'm going to select these, rotate them again 90 degrees, grab them, rearrange them. This one needs to get rotated negative 90 degrees. And there we go. So I have a nice little quad set up there. Okay, so I'm going to select these here. And one thing you can do is, this is the very top, which isn't huge. It's not super special, but it could be bigger. I have all this open space here. So I'm going to go ahead and just scale it up. It also just visually, for my eyes, makes sense that it would be here. And I think for painting it'll make a much more continuous experience. Okay, so at this point you would go ahead and you should really save. So I'm going to do File Save As, and you want to change the name. You want to make this your own. So instead of calling it Texture Paint Obelisk, I'm going to ask you to put your last name in the beginning of it, and that way then it will make it your own. Okay, so you have a couple different ways, and the way that I'm going to demo this in class is the second way that I'm going to show you. So the first way is you could go ahead and leave it like this. One thing that I would do is I would maybe put a little bit more island margin in between these, but you can see that there's some spacing here, so it's really not that bad if you zoom in. In class, what we're going to do, because of time, we're going to double up on some of these islands. So if I leave this like this right now, these four sides here can all be painted differently. So that's really great. So I can put individual cracks and holes and decals and even colors and everything like that on four different sides. And they can all be consistent, and they can have some similarities, but they can also be unique. To speed the process up, if I move some of these islands on top of each other, I will only need to paint it once, and then the graphics will get painted on both sides. The problem with that is that they'll be exact copies of each other. So yes, I won't have to paint as much. Time-wise, it'll go faster, but every crack, every detail, every brick I paint, every stone, every color I paint will show up on both sides. So you have to be real careful about that. You can see these two here are the two faces that are right close to each other, and so those would actually line up right on top of each other. For in class, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of both. I'm going to double up so that I can I'm going to lay some UVs on top of each other for time's sake, but then I'm also going to leave one not copied on top, so that way it's individual and I can make it different. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these two faces here. I'm going to press G to grab them, and I'm going to press X to lock it to the X-axis. So now I just slide it onto the X-axis, and then I just put it right on top. And there are ways to snap these on top of each other so that they're exactly on top of each other, but for now I think it's fine. I can just eyeball it. So I'm going to select this island again. I'm going to press G to grab the island, X to slide it on the X-axis, and slide it on over. And you'll see that you've got a lot more space to paint, so I can do that way. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here as well. So I'm going to take this top one here and do G. I'm going to lock it down here. And again, you can eyeball it. That's fine for our purposes. And I'll grab this one. And I think I'll actually have all four of these just be on top of each other, so that way they're all the same. Okay, so that's fine there. I can then go ahead and box select all four of these and grab them and move them over here. um, and do something like that. Okay. And there we go. Okay, so that's not too bad. You can arrange these however you want. You can scale them up. You can make them bigger. Maybe what I'll do is I'll go ahead, just for painting's sake, I'll go ahead and grab this and move this over here. That way I can scale it up a bit, get into some more detail. And it's just a jigsaw puzzle. It's like Tetris and Jenga all combined. Go ahead and grab these, maybe scale them up a bit so I have a bigger space to paint. Same thing with these, I might as well. I have the space. There are some texture artists that believe that you should really fill this entire UV grid, which I totally get. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That's a decent UV unwrap. Everything is rotated correctly. Some things are on top of each other. Some things are unique, like this one face here, so that way I can add in some of my own personality and add some more character to this. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to go ahead now, and I realize this video is getting long, but I'm going to go ahead now and get into texture paint mode and go through the setup here. So I've switched down here from edit mode, I've switched into texture paint mode, and we have no texture, that's why it's hot pink. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to choose add paint slot and choose diffuse color. I'm going to go ahead and rename this, and I'll call this Obelisk color, and I'm going to change it to a cool gray color. So I'll go medium gray, add in a little bit of cool blue, and hit OK, and there it is there. I need to see it over here on the right, so I'm going to come down here to the bottom of the UV image editor, and I'll click on the image browser and I'll choose Obelisk color, and there's my base coat. I haven't really saved this image yet, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now and get that out of the way. So I'm going to go to the image menu, I'm going to choose save as image, and I'm going to save this to my desktop, and I'm going to go ahead and call this, leave the name the same, and hit save as image. Okay, so setting up our brushes. So this is your brush picker up here where you click on the sphere and you can see all the different ones here. We're going to start on the text draw one, and we're going to add a new custom brush. So I'm going to click on the little plus symbol, and I'm going to come over here and rename it. And I'm going to number it. I'm going to do 1, and I'm going to type in hard. So this is going to be my hard brush. And what numbering does is it puts it in the very first position because it's number 1. So that helps me out there. Now I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to come to the category called Curve. And under Curve, you're going to come down here and you're going to see these little icons down here. I'm going to have you choose the last icon. And it looks like it disappears, but it didn't. I'm then going to go ahead and click on this little dot. It's a little tough to see. I'm going to drag it all the way down into the bottom right-hand corner. I'm then going to click close to the right-hand side and add in another point. And I'm going to drag that point upwards. And this is going to give me a really nice hard edge brush so I can get a really crisp edge. That's basically what we're doing here. I don't want this to be a rounded edge. I want it to be a nice angular edge. So to change this point into an angular point, I'm going to click on the little wrench and I'm going to choose Vector Handle. I know it's tough to see there. And now that it's a sharp edge, now I'm going to bring it up here. And this is the edge of my brush, and it's going to be a nice hard edge here. Okay, so that's it for the hard edge brush. I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like. So if I start drawing, you'll see that I get a nice crisp edge, and you can see it appearing over here. I'll undo that. I'm going to now click on the plus button again. I'm going to now type in 2, and I'm going to call this my soft brush. And I'll scroll down here and go back to Curve. And on this one, I'm going to start off with this second to last type. Again, it's an angle here. And all I need to do for a soft edge brush is I'm going to left click and drag this left dot and drag this all the way down here. And that gives me a very soft edge. So as we talked about in class, looking at this grid here, going up and down, this is the opacity of the brush. And so this being a very low dot over here, it's a low opacity. And this dot over here on the edge is what's called fall off, and this is going to give me a very soft, fuzzy edge. And I'll show you what that looks like now. I'll use the same color red, and you can see that I'm getting a very soft, wispy kind of brush, which is perfect for shading and some blending effects. Okay, the last brush that we're really going to need is we're going to do a modified fill brush. So I'm going to rename the brush. I'm just going to call it 3 Fill, so you can see it's reordered it now. And I'm going to change a couple settings here. I'm going to change the strength to be 1, and I'm going to turn off tablet pressure. So that way it's just a fill brush. So if I click, it will go ahead and just paint fill the color. So if I choose the color here, you can see it just paint fills the color. Okay, so it's a nice simple paint fill. Last but not least, and finishing up here, is when I switch brushes, when I go from the hard brush to the soft brush, I want the color to stay the same. So I'm going to come down here to the very bottom left-hand corner of the texture paint, and I'm going to go to the brush menu, and I'm going to turn on Unified Color. By activating that, that means now whenever I switch brushes, no matter what brush I choose, and you can see, let me choose a different color here. You can see as I do that here, as I change to a soft brush, it keeps the same color. If you don't do that, it's going to change colors on you, and you're going to have to select the same color, and it's just going to be kind of a nightmare. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Now you can go ahead and continue with your double saves. Remember to go to your image menu and choose Save Image, and remember to go to the File menu and choose Save. So that's all the nuts and bolts. After this, you can pretty much get into the artistry of it. So I wish you good luck and happy painting.